So the recent mayoral race here in Seattle is an indicator of a changing landscape in the city, that change being a shift to more women in power.
And the latest issue of Seattle Met magazine, which is on store shelves now, highlights 50 most influential women in Seattle. So some of the writers decided to highlight these 4 different covers. So there's 4 different covers featuring 4 of the 50 women in Seattle. And joining us this morning to talk more about the issues are contributing editor Allison Williams and Rosen Saez. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning. Thank you for having us.
It's really interesting to open up this magazine and look at the 50 women that you chose in all different areas. And so how did you go about selecting these women?
Yeah, I think it was actually much more easier than you could have imagined.
Yeah.
We have a very wealth of lovely and powerful women in the city in all of their respective fields, from STEM to activism and nonprofit work. And so it wasn't so much of a criteria as it was a lot of the editors getting together and understanding that we had a lot of candidates to go through and actually profile, and it was a lovely experience being able to do that.
Everyone's rattling off everyone that they wanted to talk to.
Right.
In Seattle.
It was. They're just one after another. So actually, let's highlight a couple of those this morning. This is not a ranking or anything, but there are some very powerful, influential women. The first, Kiki Wolfkill at Microsoft. We've talked to her before. She's a computer programmer at Microsoft since '98, before it was cool, one of the pioneers in the industry. We've had her on the show. She is great. She's behind all these video games like Halo. Why pick Kiki, for example?
Well, she may have been in Microsoft before it was cool, but she was cool. She was a race car driver when she first started working there. And so she got into gaming because they were working on a race car game. And so she was the sort of local expert. And she has now grown in the Halo world, which is kind of a intergalactic shoot 'em up kind of world.
Gamer stuff, boy stuff mostly.
Well,
really.
but you know, she said she's had a great experience, and she was saying game design, it's technology, but it's creativity and collaboration. And she said it's been a really great place for women to grow.
Totally.
Another highlight is Melissa Arnott. She's a powerhouse and a well-known mountaineer around the world. She's the first woman in history to summit Mount Everest with using a supplemental oxygen.
Without oxygen, yeah.
First American woman to do it, and to make it back down, which is sort of shows how difficult it was. Others have been able to summit but not make it down successfully.
Right.
So what the great thing about her, she doesn't consider herself anything but an average athlete.
Really?
She says she's just average. She's summited Everest 6 times, but it's about the mental games, really what she talked about.
Such a gem
dedication
to have her here in the Northwest too, and see her on local mountains and stuff. The third woman who I personally love, Marty Hartman from Mary's Place. She's such a good friend of the station too, executive director there at Mary's Place. So passionate, strong, a tireless advocate for homeless families in the area. I mean, she deserves to be on the list too, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Marty is such a Seattle treasure. She took Mary's Place from a very small drop-in shelter. It's now a network of 8 overnight shelters, I believe. She knows at every minute how many kids slept outside in King County last night, and she's working to make that 0, and I believe she's going to make that.
She takes that personally.
Absolutely.
Totally does. And it was actually interesting because the more we did reporting and research for this, and the more women that I spoke with, who you should talk to? You should talk to Marty.
Yeah.
So, she was getting support from other women in the community as well.
What was the idea behind the 4 different covers?
I think that we realized we couldn't just put one. We had so many. We probably wish we could have done 50 covers. I think probably someone in our art department might have keeled over if we suggested that. But it came from having so many wonderful options, which is, I think, a really cool thing about where Seattle is right now.
Yeah, well, you can catch it on store shelves. I saw it at Fred Meyer. That's why I wanted to make sure we get you ladies in, because it is very interesting. Allison Williams, Rosen Saez, thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.